Yeah, so walk me through this, Gavin, because I haven't actually seen this one yet, but we knew that part of his big effort to, drum up support for Rebellion PAC was going on the Breakfast Club. He talked about it. He was really excited about it. He interviewed a guy for no fanfare in Times Square as a way to promote it. And here we are now. He's recorded it. How did you think it went?
Not well. Honestly, this was a boring snooze of an interview. I'm pretty disappointed in Charlamagne the God for conducting such a tepid kind of softball interview. It was totally boring, honestly. That's my main takeaway, Zach. And ultimately, this is just such a dumb business decision from Cenk because, as you referenced, he's here on the Breakfast Club on another media tour, not to actually like just have a conversation or to give his opinion and talk like normal people would, Kyle, if he went on Charlamagne's show or if, someone like that went on there, they just talk about the fucking news. But no, Cenk is like a traveling salesman. He's going door to door selling knives or light bulbs or popcorn. I'm not even kidding. Every time he goes on any show, it's to give his dumbass sales pitch. And this is actually a terrible strategy, even though he thinks it's what he needs to do, right? He keeps inventing these projects and campaigns and initiatives, all this kind of stuff. So he has an excuse to get more attention and go on these shows. But actually, when he does go on one of these shows, like we're about to see, to sell his latest shtick, it just makes the conversation a lot more boring. And I think most normal people would tune out pretty quickly, even if they did click on this, because they just realize like, oh, this is just a guy trying to sell me on something. For 40 minutes, Cenk is just like doing propaganda for his PAC instead of just having an honest conversation, instead of debating anything or discussing any of the recent controversies, right? And that's my big issue with the way Charlamagne the God actually handled this, because I thought the Breakfast Club was supposed to be kind of like a spicy show. They've done some pretty intense, controversial, confrontational interviews. I remember we watched the Jill Stein interview. That was a total that was crazy, right? It got really intense. This, it felt like, Charlamagne the God didn't even give a fuck. Like he was kind of asleep at the wheel. He was like, oh yeah, who's this guy we got to have on? Cenk Uygur to talk about what? Like, he didn't seem to have any instincts as an interviewer that would have made this conversation worth having. And it's unfortunate because there has been so much controversy recently that could be dug into, not only with all of the MAGA glazing that Cenk and Anna have engaged in and been criticized for, but also Cenk just announced Rebellion PAC on Twitter and on TYT, and it was met with swift and immediate backlash due to Brianna Wu's association. Completely humiliating. Brianna Wu was literally forced out because of this. She pretended to, resign or step back or whatever. But we all know it's because the number one headline that dominated the reaction to this announcement was, I can't believe Cenk wants us to get excited about something that's led by Brianna Wu. And Charlamagne doesn't even bring that up. He doesn't even ask about it. He's not like,
Probably
hey,
doesn't know about it.
I guess, but it just seems weird to have someone on to talk for 40 minutes about their PAC, and you don't even know enough about the announcement of it, which just happened, that generated massive controversy that you're just going to totally omit, totally ignore. Again, even just from a entertainment perspective, if you want people to watch your content, if you want people to watch this interview, give us a reason to watch it. Give us something exciting. Give us something new. Give us at least a little bit of confrontation. But as you're going to see, it's, pretty milquetoast.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Let's take a look. Let me fire this up. And it actually starts off in hilarious fashion. Also, I wanted to point this out to anyone that thought I was being mean in the thumbnail, right? Because I know it's a pretty unflattering depiction of Cenk. Well, I actually wasn't being mean. I just took that straight from the actual thumbnail that the Breakfast Club used to brand this. So this terrifying photo of Cenk like leering. It looks like a horror movie. You're in the subway at night and you look across the aisle and this guy's leering at you. Like that's what this looks like. I didn't pick this. They picked it.
I have to imagine after seeing that thumbnail that they did not take him very seriously and they didn't think it was a very good interview. So they're like, oh, here's some way that we'll be able to, evoke a response from people. Let's use this god awful thumbnail for click through ratio. But I mean, yeah, 54,000 views in a day on the Breakfast Club channel. That means you're not somebody that anybody knows who the fuck you are, and they were not that interested in finding out. Obviously, there's a lot of filler when you do a daily radio show, and it clearly looks like Charlamagne was like, whatever, I have to fill radio time. Let me get this guy in here. But we'll see. I'm excited to take a listen.
the CEO and founder of the Young Turks Network, Cenk. It's Uygur, right?
Cenk Uygur.
Cenk Uygur.
Cenk Uygur. Oh, brutal. See, guys,
Cenk. It's Uygur, right?
Cenk.
He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know who he is at all. And do you know what's funny, guys? You, Gavin, asked. Did you ask? We asked Owen Higgins about the poly market, money, and we asked about the Young Turks and if that's influenced them at all. And he said that he doesn't pay attention to the Young Turks at all because he doesn't think that they have enough mainstream impact. He was like, oh, I just don't think enough like mainstream people know who the Young Turks are. And I was like, damn, the Young Turks have cratered their relevance so much that even people who are going to have them on their show are just like, wait, who's this guy? I genuinely think that Charlamagne probably assumed that he was just going to be having a conversation with like a stiff, Rebellion PAC guy. Like, oh, I'm going to talk to this guy about politics. He's got 6 million YouTube subscribers. Like, okay, maybe he'll be really good at this. Like, he'll talk to me about this. But clearly not familiar with the guy's work at all. And it just has to be a huge blow to his ego.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I guess I do kind of disagree with you, though, that I think Charlamagne does know who Cenk is. Like, I think it's crazy. Cenk's been on The Breakfast Club before. This guy has been a, long-standing presence in this space on YouTube. He is undeniably one of the biggest names in the political YouTube game. At least he was before this recent total fall of relevance. So it is bizarre to me, honestly, that people like Charlamagne still consistently fuck up Cenk's name. Like, it's really not that hard. It's really not. Like, there are some people whose names genuinely are hard to pronounce that I'll fuck up constantly. Cenk Uygur, I've always found it pretty easy to get that one right. And yeah, people just continually mispronounce it. Even like Charlie Kirk, remember at the recent America Fest thing, he fucked it up. Dr. Phil the other day, I think got Cenk Uygur right, but then called TYT YTY.
Roy Kahana.
And he fucked up Rokana's name. Yeah. But I don't know, bro. The Cenk Uygur thing, I really don't think it's that hard to get. Do
you think it's like a Kamala?
I guess,
or where they're like always trying to like pronounce it a little bit differently so that you correct them, and they're like, oh, well, even she pronounces it different. Let's listen to this clip and this clip. Because to me, as somebody who, I've never watched Cenk on The Breakfast Club, unless we've reacted to it on the show, and I just don't remember.
I don't think we did.
But I'm looking at this, and I'm like, he's at least being treated by Charlamagne as a guy he's never met before and never heard of. Like, that's how you have an interaction with somebody that you've never met before.
The CEO and founder of the Young Turks Network, Cenk. It's Uygur, right?
Cenk Uygur.
Cenk Uygur. He got both of them wrong. He got both Cenk and Uygur wrong. He said Cenk Weaver or something like that. I'm like,
I kind of understand the Uyghur thing. If I just never heard it said out loud, and I'd, fallen asleep at the wheel, not done any, homework, right? Because I imagine, guys, after looking at that, like, this is a total phone-in interview for Charlamagne. He doesn't care about it at all. He's just there because he has to, fill the airtime, get his check, go home, do whatever. And he left whoever that other woman that you said did a better job was to find out who this guy was, ask him some interesting questions. And Charlamagne doing what the the big dog does, the person that doesn't have to, impress anyone. He just shows up and he's like, let me ask you a couple of questions. This is a totally irrelevant example for anyone besides people who lived in Kansas City, but there was this radio show, Church of Laszlo, and Laszlo never did any prep, and he never knew what the fuck was going on, and he was always just like, oh, what? But the show was named after him, and he was technically the star, so I was like, we'll just, let you not know what the fuck you're doing. Right. I feel like Charlamagne kind of has that going for him sometimes on The Breakfast Club.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not a huge Breakfast Club listener, so I don't stay up to date with the ins and outs of his opinions and commentary and all that stuff. I've never really found him to be all that objectionable, but I also, like I said, don't really think he's compelling or interesting enough to really warrant me paying all that much attention to him. So it's an interesting thing. But someone pointed out in chat, like, Cenk actually invited Charlamagne on TYT. Charlamagne went on TYT like a month or so ago. I actually remember that now that someone brought it up. So again, it is crazy, not just to fixate on this, but it is crazy to keep mispronouncing Cenk's name. Kind of just disrespectful, honestly. I mean, if you're going to have someone on your show that you've already talked to multiple times and you're like, wait, And he literally asked him, he's like, Cenk, what is it, Uygur? He like doesn't know. He's like asking him. Like, you could have fucking watched one video, found out. Who cares, right? But it is bizarre. I think just another sign of the kind of like casual disrespect that Cenk faces from a lot of these people. Because let's face it, they're all just doing him favors constantly by having him on their fucking show. So I kind of get it from Charlamagne. He's like, I don't really like, why are we doing this again? Like, Cenk's here to promote what? Like, what the fuck? Like, why is this worthy of this platform? Because yeah, Cenk is kind of like that friend who only hits you up when he needs a favor, right? Like, he's like, hey, I have a big announcement. Can I come on the Breakfast Club to announce? And it's like, I'm sure they're kind of like, I mean, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to tell him to fuck off. So I guess,
we'll put you in the back half of the hour where it's, it's only on the local radio show, and everybody else is out having their smoke breaks,
Yep.
Oh, yeah, don't worry, Charlamagne will be there. Oh yeah, it's the main Breakfast Club. It's pathetic. And I was looking to see if there were maybe any poll quotes that had gone viral on Twitter from this exchange. And do you know what accidentally came up instead? This tweet, which is about 9 years old and some change, I'll go ahead and throw it up. Went to Chinese food with Senator Sanders after introducing him at rallies. This was his fortune cookie. No joke. Experience is the name everyone gives to their mistakes. And he's trolling Hillary Clinton. And he's hanging out with Bernie Sanders. And they're eating Chinese food together. And I think it really just brings home just how badly Cenk played his hand. He played his hand really poorly. And now he wants to kick and scream, and he doesn't have enough money to buy back into the table. And he's buddies with all these other guys who still have their roles, and they're still successful, and they're still playing the game. But he's washed. He's washed, and he doesn't have the skills to sit down anymore. And so when you have him with you, you almost feel like you're just bringing him out to embarrass him. You're bringing him out to be the little
or to be
schmuck.
nice to him.
Yeah,
like, I guess we'll let you introduce
Cenk
your.
Uygur didn't feel very nice.
That's true, but I just mean, like, again, like, honestly, at some point he'll probably start getting told by people like Charlamagne, the last time was your last time. Like, no, you can't just come on every 6 months to announce your fake grift project number 500. Like, because that's what Cenk does. He only goes on these shows when he has something to announce. You'll notice this recently. Every time he's on a media tour, it's like, again, he's a traveling salesman. And it just makes for a really boring style of conversation every time one happens, because it just seems like Cenk is trying to sell you on some shit. Like, he's reading a script that was written for him by like some MLM company, and he's on the phone with you trying desperately to make sure you get a bundle of Cutco knives or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the vibe. And it just makes for a really boring conversation, especially when the host, like Charlamagne, won't actually, wander into more interesting territory. Like, when someone like Crystal Ball has Cenk on Breaking Points, she's like, yeah, we'll let you make your fucking announcement and sell your book or whatever, but we're also going to spend like the first 20 or 30 minutes of the conversation nailing your balls to the wall and addressing all the controversies and everything you've said recently that people are pissed off about. Like, they make it interesting, right? If they're going to have Cenk on, they're like, okay, but we're also going to give the people what they actually want. This interview was the opposite. It just felt like a rambling 40-minute long infomercial where the host barely cared about, the spokesperson.
100%. Another Cenk thing I wanted to bring up that I think is relevant because it speaks to the problem that he has. Guys, Cenk was so well positioned to succeed in the media landscape. We talk about it all the time. He had every opportunity to be the Midas touch. He had every opportunity to be the Piers Morgan. Whatever he wanted to do, he was very well positioned on YouTube to do it. But because of his hubris, because of his lack of understanding of the way that the media apparatus was about to go, the way that people were going to want to consume their content, he made a lot of bad bets in a row, and because of that, he's now no longer in a position to be relevant. And on top of all of that, he refused any constructive criticism. I'm not talking about him just being like, oh, I appreciate what the Vanguard did pointing out. I'm talking about people he knew, who he'd worked with for a long time, people like Kyle Kalinske, people like Sam Cedar, people like David Dole, people like Lance from the Surface, people who had a much closer relationship. Francesca, for example, right? And then he comes out and he tweets this. He says, I'm so tired of both sides demanding that their side not be criticized. Grow up. The world is complex and things are rarely black and white. If you think Democrats or Trump are angels, you have no idea how hilarious you sound. Right now, very few people want truth. And I just think that this is such a hilarious thing to say. It's like was like, what's a platitude, Chat GPT, that I can say to feed to my audience? Like, it doesn't make any sense given the way that he's positioned himself over the last, 6 months, 5 months, whatever, since the election, where he's been like, oh, I never called Donald Trump a Nazi. No, we have to give these people the benefit of the doubt. And then now he's like back to trying to be like, I've been criticizing everybody the whole time. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just don't understand this messaging.
I think I understand it, Zach. What he's reacting to is that he's pissed off that people aren't really here for this brand of left bashing that him and Anna have been selling on TYT for the last several months. People right now, they don't just want to tune into a show where you're bashing on the left and where you're shitting on the Democrats. Why? Because guess who's no longer in charge of this fucking country? The left and the Democrats, right? It'd be like if, you're at work and a new boss comes in, the old boss leaves, there's a new boss. He's way worse. He's way shittier. But one employee at the workplace just wants to keep harping on the old boss who left 6 months ago. Frankly, most people kind of have fond memories of his, tenure now in contrast to the new boss. But this one chick, she's so hung up. She can't stop bitching and moaning about the last boss. It's like, that's kind of what's going on. And people aren't here for it because the new boss is way worse. And people want content about that. People want you to be angry about that, not just constantly shitting on the left and the powerless progressives who, pissed you off on Twitter or whatever. It's totally stupid. And I think, Zach, that's what's really resulting in this. Let me put this up on screen because I thought this was interesting. On the Secular Talk subreddit, people taking note of this, the Young Turks viewership in free fall. And if you take a look at the screenshot, you'll see, 27 views, 27,000 views, 16,000, 13K, 15K, 10K. If we actually look at the, channel itself, as you guys can see here, it's no better, 5.5K, 9.4K. It's totally and completely pathetic, guys. Like the most they're generating now is like, 40,000, 38K is like their top from the most recent batch. This is really getting dark and dismal. I know we've been saying like for a while, the exodus is here, the mass exodus, all this stuff. But I mean, yeah, as someone said in chat, TYT viewership looking like Tesla's stock value.
Yeah, I mean, guys, the reality is nobody wants what they're offering. The enlightened centrist bullshit. I want to talk about how good Donald Trump is and how, good some Democrats are, right? There's no audience for that. We said that over and over again. The one thing Cenk had going for him was being the firebrand progressive, being the aggressive progressive, being the kind of guy who would castigate conservatives. We just recently praised him, right, when he had an excellent exchange, a debate performance against Ben Galib, who was an absolute psychopath on the TYT main show. And Cenk came out looking great because he ripped him to fucking shreds. And that's what people want from Cenk Uygur. But he has a misunderstanding of what people want from him. And he also is just way too in love with himself. I don't think he can actually sit back and be like, what can I put out that's going to do well? And how can I cut off everything else, right? Gavin, I think you were the first one to suggest this. I think it's only become better and better advice. Fire or part ways with everyone at the network. And I don't mean have them lose their job, right? But I just mean like, listen, dude, let John Iadarola take the damage report and run the damage report. You're clearly not competent at it. You have to have Dr. Rashad Ritchie have ownership of his show, take it and run with it. Congratulations.
Yeah, there's too much overhead.
Exactly. And also, Cenk isn't doing a good enough job to justify taking a cut of those different shows, right? He's honestly bottlenecking it. So I think that they would all have more success if they dispersed from him, right? Give people a severance package, tell them to move on, but you're killing the network and you're not doing good work anymore. And you would be far better off if you just did a nightly show by yourself, potentially with Anna Kasparian and a very limited crew.
Yeah, no, the way they structured the whole organization was not responsible because now we're seeing that it's not able to sustain or weather this drop off in viewership. And I do really feel bad for all those employees because, yeah, there's way too goddamn many of them for it to be a profitable company at this point. That's why they're constantly groveling at the feet of Peter Thiel and Polymarket and Aspiration Bank and Too Strong Coffee and all these stupid fucking deals that they're engaging in to make it profitable. Because let me tell you, the ad revenue on clips getting 9,000 views, it's not shit. A clip that you post with 9,000 views makes like $30. Like it's not anything. It's really nothing. So it's completely embarrassing. And for a channel with 6 million subs to get that kind of engagement on their videos, I mean, guys, like if we got that sort of engagement on our videos, we'd be like, fuck, we need to, sit down, maybe rebrand our thumbnails, figure like what's not working here. Clearly they're just not having that conversation. They're not actually addressing the rot at the core of the product, which is causing this viewer fall off. And not only are they not addressing it, they're actually making it worse, because instead of doing that hard work of rebuilding the channel and regaining trust with the audience, what's Cenk doing? He's hanging out with Charlamagne the God, and he's going on Chris Cuomo's show for some reason, right? To talk about something that no one cares about, to drum up excitement for something that nobody is excited about, and that nobody will be excited about, because it's not exciting. It's nothing even new. It's Rebellion PAC, something that's existed for years, and that up until 5 minutes ago was run by a evil ghoul of a human being.
Yeah, who he made the announcement that they were going to redo and revamp Rebellion PAC while the executive director was on a PR tour in fucking Israel. Okay, and I don't know why people were receiving you, because you're a fucking idiot, dude. You're a fucking dumbass. You are potentially one of the worst businessmen I've ever seen in my entire life. Okay, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You are one of the most foolish people that's ever reached the level of success you reached. Okay, in a landscape filled with people who are fucking dumbasses. I just can't even fucking fathom how you arrived in the position you are now. Tenacity, I guess, got you
arriving where it did, and then to squander.
That's what I mean.
Like, that's the crazy thing.
Tenacity.
He did build something. He clearly did have the instincts at one point, but I just feel like he's flailing in this new media world, and he doesn't know how to adjust. He really genuinely, it's kind of sad. I actually think he thinks that this Rebellion PAC thing is going to get people excited or something. Like, it kind of reminds me of remember when he did the "Don't Kill It, Bernie," which was like his response to Force the Vote. And he was like, I'm going to give a big announcement about the new strategy. And it was just an obvious ripoff of Force the Vote that was trying to, and whatever you think about Force the Vote, that's what it fucking was. This hashtag "Don't Kill It, Bernie" thing. This is the same, fucking energy where it's like, no one is excited about this, bro. You're the only one.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say about Cenk, because I think this is the best analogy that I could muster, because obviously he did have something in him at some point that made him, the guy, that made him the face of the Young Turks, that made him want to found this organization and carry it to where it is.
Bernie want to have him introduce him.
Exactly. But I think, it really comes down to, we have this expression in the restaurant world, in service industry culture, called your hair being on fire. If you're an owner of the restaurant and your hair is on fire, it means you're not going to ever be able to run that restaurant as a successful business. It means you are not you may be open for service that night, but your restaurant is doomed. It is going to close. And that is where the Young Turks are at right now. The Young Turks' hair is on fire. Okay, and they might have a guy back there that can cook, but there's so many things going wrong. There's so many vendors that they have to pay. They're so behind on their overhead that they're never going to be able to crawl their way out. They can never do enough covers in enough nights to get back into the black. They're going to have to close the restaurant, right? It's a matter of how far down the road is that going to be? Is that going to be, 2 weeks from now? Is that going to be 3 months from now, right? Are we going to have a slow wind down, or are we going to have to wind down immediately? And honestly, at this point, Gavin, I'm starting to say, this is bold prediction, I don't think you're seeing a main show of the Young Turks January 2026. I don't think you're seeing a main show of the Young Turks Network January of 2026. I don't think they're going to survive the midterms. I don't think that they're going to see any surge. I think that Cenk is going to try and take more money to extend the amount of time that he can keep the lights on, that he can, pay everyone. And he's going to try and stretch it as far as he can go. And I think he's going to poker face it Bernie Madoff style the whole way. And then it's going to finally fall apart. And I think his hair's on fire, dude. I don't think he can survive.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. I mean, I've been predicting specifically that Anna has been looking for an exit, that she's going to, putting herself out there, been auditioning for a role in a different media company. And I think at this point, Cenk's more than willing to jump ship too. I think he's like, fuck it, I'll happily, join like News Nation or something. I really think that's what he wants, to join like Chris Cuomo and those jokers on somewhere like News Nation, right? I really think that's what he wants. It's also possible, as Palm Sanity says, they're looking for a buyer. They might be interested in someone acquiring the brand. That's possible.
Can we harp on that for a second? That's actually their best out. I think that's how they all win. Actually, the fact that I'm ashamed I didn't think about that first and put that into the ether, because I can't imagine who it would be, but somebody wants a YouTube channel with 6 million subscribers and they can rebrand it. And I think you're right that they might find a buyer. I think that buyer would not be super smart to buy it, but I think they could find a buyer, and it would make Cenk happy because it would make him be able to seem like he had a successful exit. And it would also make Anna Kasparian happy because, like I said, I'm pretty sure she probably has stock investments tied up in the Young Turks. It would be a way for them to all just kind of dust off their hands and go their separate ways into the night, which now more than ever I'm anticipating.
I mean, I think, I don't disagree with you. I don't think it would be a successful, I don't think it would be a graceful exit, because it would basically be a betrayal of everything that TYT has ever bragged about, which is that it's a quote unquote independent company. If they sell it to like Nexstar or some shit like that, I mean,
I don't think Cenk gives a fuck.
I don't think he gives a fuck. Clearly, he doesn't have much principles at all. But I just mean, would that actually be a good look? Would anyone celebrate that? I think most people would just be like, that's deeply pathetic on both ends of the deal.
Oh, I think that would happen too, but I just think that Cenk is selfish enough, and he's would convince himself that he could get on at News Nation or whatever the Andrew Cuomo is. That News Nation?
Yep. No, it's definitely possible. Here's another theory in the comment section of that Reddit post that we were just looking at. And this is kind of along the lines of what we've both been saying. I'm 99% sure Anna is on her way out and is going to create her own podcast / YouTube channel. Oops, I just hid the comment. This will not end well for Cenk because he's backed her way more than he should have. And this is something we've been saying too. It's like, bro, why are you following her off this cliff? Why are you following her off this cliff here? Like, clearly she's not happy. She said that on air multiple times, that she hates her job, that she hates the space that she's in, all this stuff, right? That she hates having to deal with critics and people that aren't just affirming everything she says and believes. So yeah, Cenk, why did you follow her off the cliff? I get that you're a loyal guy. I get that you guys are friends. That's not a bad thing. But at some point, you do have to protect what you have built. TYT is yours, and Anna could just leave your ass stranded on this island alone. And then you're really fucked. Right? Because they already barely have enough guest hosts and people in the network to fill in when Cenk's not there. It's always like these random people who have no real personality, who just kind of feel like teleprompter readers that increasingly dominate the main show, Zach, because Francesca's gone and all of the interesting contributors that at one point would have filled those spots, they're all gone. They've all either quit, like Mondale, in protest, or been fired, like Francesca. So now there's just increasingly less and less talent. If Anna leaves, that really will be just it. TYT will be kaput.
Yeah, and I don't see Anna leaving while their value is so low. That's the only thing that's always come
Even
back.
if she got an offer?
I mean, I don't think she's going to. That's what I mean. Like, I think that I don't think Anna on the free market is valuable enough to fetch anything that would make her feel comfortable leaving at this point, knowing that she would have to cash out whatever equity, whatever kind of share she has with TYT at an all-time low. I genuinely, now I'm really married to this idea that they're going to try and sell TYT. I think genuinely, but they'll try and sell the Young Turks.
The only thing I disagree with you about is that you're saying that Anna doesn't have much value on the market. I think she or Cenk individually would both have more value than the TYT brand itself. Because I actually do think if you put Anna like on Fox News, on the 5 or something, like, she would be perfectly capable of doing that, I suppose. Whereas the TYT brand, it's pretty much dead. And especially if you try to swap in new talent, replace the flagship personalities with some new people, like, that's not really going to work either.
I think there's a fair argument that it won't work. I think that there might be a savvy enough businessman in Cenk to con somebody into buying it. I genuinely think that with 6 million subscribers, all of these legacy elderly people with a fuckload of money and no understanding of how YouTube works, right? Like, oh, I'm ready to move on from this. I built 6 million subscribers. You won't have to start from scratch, blah, blah, blah. I think that there's a way that you could market a platform of that size, a channel of that size, in a way that compels somebody to believe that they could rejuvenate it, right? In a way that compels somebody to believe that they could be the ones that get it back brand rejuvenation is something that's not like you could, bring up a bunch of examples on behalf of companies that had like a really tarnished brand that now have a really strong brand, and get somebody to believe in that, sell it for a lot less than a regular channel with 6 million subscribers would fetch. And I think that's Cenk's best way to get out. And I think that's what he has to start thinking about. And I think that's where his head will go after this Rebellion PAC thing finishes shaking out.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be there. The Vanguard